Have you ever noticed that some people just refuse to quit? Not because they're the strongest, not because they're the smartest, and not because they have some secret formula. They just keep showing up. I don't know if that's stubbornness or faith, but sometimes the two look an awful lot alike. Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Janine, and I believe that life is the best teacher if we're willing to pay attention. Every life has a story. Every detour has a purpose. And every season has wisdom that's worth sharing. So let's settle in and see what today's story teaches us. I want to introduce you to 4 people who made history simply by showing up because they refused to quit. We have a potato farmer who accidentally changed the way ultra marathon runners run their races. Next, we have a grandmother who failed her driver's test 960 times. Then there's the 99-year-old woman who decided that crowd surfing sounded like a perfectly reasonable thing to do on a Saturday night. And 2 Scottish women who earned their black belts after most people would have thought it was too late for them to even start. In 1983, Australia hosted one of the toughest races on earth, the Sydney to Melbourne Ultra Marathon, 544 miles. Think about that for a second. Most of us complain when we have to park in the back 40 at the grocery store. Well, these runners were signing up to cross almost the entire state. Elite athletes showed up wearing expensive running shoes, professional gear, and enough sports science to fill a laboratory. Then a 61-year-old potato and sheep farmer named Cliff Young walked up to the stands. He wasn't dressed like a runner. He wore overalls and gumboots and looked more like he was headed to repair a fence than compete in one of the world's toughest races. The officials honestly thought someone was playing a joke. Instead, Cliff politely asked for a race number. They handed him one, and I'm guessing while they pinned it on his overalls, they were thinking, this should be interesting. Then when reporters asked him what he was going to do when he inevitably collapsed a few hundred meters in, Cliff, totally unbothered by that, explained his training regimen. I grew up on a farm where we couldn't afford horses. Whenever the storms would roll in, I'd have to go out and round up the sheep. We had 2,000 head and 2,000 acres. Sometimes I would have to run those sheep for 2 to 3 days. It took a long time, but I'd catch them. So, no coach, no sports science degree, just a lifetime of literally outlasting livestock. Oh, no running coach, no nutritionist, just sheep. Honestly, sheep are probably cheaper than CrossFit. And here's the part I love the most about this story. It wasn't until after the race that he found out there was a $10,000 winner prize. And he felt so bad about winning when other people had worked just as hard as he had that he divided his winnings with the top 5 finishers. And he kept very little for himself. Sometimes your greatest strength is the thing that other people think looks strange. You just have to keep moving when everybody else stops. Maybe that's the lesson. Consistency often outbeats perfectionism. Our second story is the woman who failed 960 times. Now, if Cliff taught us about endurance, Cha Sassoon teaches us about perseverance in spite of embarrassment. This 69-year-old woman lived in South Korea and ran a vegetable business, and she needed a driver's license. Simple enough. She took the written exam, failed, took it again, failed. Most of us probably would start questioning our intelligence somewhere around attempt number 3. Not Cha. She simply showed up again, and again, and again. For 3 straight years, she took that written exam 5 days a week. 5 days every week. Eventually, she slowed down to twice a week, just so she wouldn't overdo it. Then finally, on her 950th written exam, she passed. But then came the driving test. That one only took 10 times. Grand total, 960 exams. Can you imagine being the examiner? Oh, it's her again. Her instructor later admitted they never had the heart to tell her to quit because she just kept coming back. And when she finally earned her license, everyone celebrated. There were flowers, hugs, and cheers. And when Hyundai heard the story, they gave her a brand new car, which was incredibly generous, although I imagine someone in the marketing department quietly was asking the question, wait, how many attempts did you say? Most dreams don't die because we fail. They die because we decide that failure says something about us. Cha never let failure become her identity. Maybe embarrassment has stopped you from doing something. And maybe it's time you stopped listening. Now let's head to Texas. Meet Pauline Kana, age 99. Now, at 99, I'm hoping I still remember where my reading glasses are. But Pauline decided she'd rather crowd surf. 20,000 people packed into a country music concert, and somehow someone suggested lifting Grandma over the crowd. Most people would say absolutely not. But Pauline apparently said, sounds fun. She floated across thousands of cheering fans while everyone chanted her name. Guinness World Records officially recognized her as the oldest crowd surfer in history. When her feet touched the ground, she smiled and declared, "I did it! I'm the greatest of all time." Honestly, I aspire to answer my phone with that much confidence. What I enjoyed the most about Pauline was that she wasn't chasing fame. She was chasing joy. And then fame just happened to catch up to her. And finally, let's visit Scotland. Sheila Stewart and Isabell Murray, 77 and 72 years old, joined a karate class designed for older adults. Not because they wanted trophies, and not because they dreamed of becoming martial art legends. They just thought it sounded like something fun to try. Well, 4 years later, they earned their black belts. Think about it, black belts, starting in their 70s, ending with one of them in their 80s. Meanwhile, I occasionally groan just getting out of my recliner. Oh boy. When asked how she felt about receiving her black belt, Sheila said, we never ever thought we'd get to the stage we're at now. And Isabell, her response was wonderfully understated. I'm quite happy. Okay, only someone from Britain could win a black belt at 70-something and then respond with, I'm quite happy. You know, if I had done that, I'd probably introduce myself at church as saying, black belt here. The people that we admire aren't always the ones that started early. You know, what strikes me about each one of these stories is every one of them were people who didn't wake up saying, I think I'll become famous today. Nope, Cliff knew how to chase sheep. Cha wanted to deliver vegetables. Pauline wanted to enjoy a concert. And Sheila and Isabell wanted to try something new. That's it. They became famous because they kept showing up when everyone else thought they would have quit. You know, I hear a lot of people my age say, it's too late. I'm too old. My ship has sailed. I've even said those things to myself. But maybe our ship hasn't sailed. Maybe it's still in the harbor waiting for us to climb aboard. Maybe it's waiting for us to stop telling ourselves that story. And that's what I believe is really standing in our way. It's not our age. It's what we tell ourselves about our age. Every one of these people rewrote that story. And maybe that's what we should do too. You don't have to run 544 miles in gumboots. Personally, I wouldn't recommend it. You don't have to crowd surf, and you don't have to earn a black belt. You don't even have to fail a full 960 times. But maybe there's something you've put off, thinking that it's too late to start. What if it isn't? What if the only thing standing between you and that thing you want to do is the story you've been telling yourself? If one of these stories inspired you or made you laugh, maybe, I'd love it if you'd put in the comments which one.